Introduce our first speaker, Jeanine from Fundamental Learning Center, is coming to share other exciting news with us. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad this sound is awesome. I'm Jeanine Phillips, Executive Director for Fundamental Learning Center. I am thrilled to be here on the first day of spring. And that goes to our groundhog, right? He was a little long this year from what I heard. I'm so glad it's spring. Couple introductions I want to make before I begin. This is Kristen Bogner. Kristen's here to stand up light. She's going to be showing you a product, parts of a product that I have put together, designed for a curriculum to teach for an adult teacher, parent to teach a child how to read who is struggling to do so. So I'll get to that in a few minutes. I also want to introduce you to Gretchen Anfield, who is in the picture with me. Gretchen co-founded Fundamental Learning Center with me in 2001. We started and are still a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to changing the lives of young children with dyslexia by teaching teachers and parents how to teach the kids appropriately. So this is us, this is what we do. I'm dyslexic. I always start with that introduction. And I'd like you to walk away with some facts about dyslexia. I don't see backwards. I don't see differently. I don't have letter spin. But 98% of the people polled think that is what dyslexia is. I process language differently. I don't hear the sounds. So that's what you need to understand. It affects 1 in 5. And Kansas doesn't recognize it in their schools. We don't assess it and we don't treat it. It's highly problematic. So it's basically led, helped us understand through research what to do. But if I go back 18 years, this was a research fact that came out about what was happening to individuals across the country in the United States. I'm going to pull out 2 phrases: long-term life harm. I talk about this all the time. I talk about this mass population that's costing you as a taxpayer and me $300.8 billion annually in lost social and economic advantages for kids and individuals. How this affects Kansas kids, I'm always saying this, it's always shocking. 2017 scores from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, 64% of our 4th graders in Kansas are reading below proficiency. That means 2 years or more behind. We have a crisis, you guys, and so few people are aware. So it was these statistics that basically have been here for Gretchen and I, starting with our own kids, where I knew I had the experience, I had the science background, I had everything I needed to develop a program for kids. So Kristen's going to help me. It is called the Sound Case. The Sound Case is developed again for 5 to 7-year-olds or kids who have not emerged as readers. It is for an adult. It's an adult training program. And I'm going to start out with the components. I'm going to move very quickly now. This is called the activity strip. It's a full strip. We broke it in half. It aligns with 43 lessons that guide the adults, lightly scripted, through all of these activities. The strip basically establishes the time, about an hour that you're working with kids. All of it's research-based. It starts at the top with reading aloud to a child. There are 43 recommended books. You don't have to use those books, but they're highly recommended because they theme the entire lesson. We move down to phonological awareness, which is the key to teaching children how to read. Transferring those sounds in language to print is what is essential. It is an isolated skill that we teach. So to give you an example, this is a saying slide, it's trademarked, I wrote it, I'm so excited about this. And while we do, child has one, I have one. I say, I'm going to show you the sounds in cat. At. The child does it with me, then I ask the child, show me the sounds in cat. So this, we spend about 3 minutes every day doing that. Alphabet, essentially, you guys, this is a task for kids if they don't know letter names. If they don't understand letter shapes, they cannot learn to read. We take these 2 activities, we put it together, it's called phonics. Now we can teach a letter to a sound, and so there's a time we're focused on that. We incorporate handwriting at the same time. So identifying visually the letter, sound, and then we teach the children at the same time how to write the letter. We move to review time. This is because when a child gets in the car and mom says, tell me what you learned today, what did we say? Nothing. Yeah, we tell them what we want you to tell your mom you learned today right here, so that it's this meta-linguistic activity. Extension activity, this is the fun, you guys. They make, they build, they do something that basically goes back to the theme of the whole lesson. This is motivation for our kids. So all of this has an online training program for parents and teachers with Lightspeed, BT. They're a Wichita-based company. We love them. They do educational training. If you have not checked them out yet, I encourage anybody and everybody here to do so. So I made it. That's it. Thank you, timekeeper, for not cutting me off. I know you are.
Great job. Now, as you know, now is your turn. Okay, we have 2 microphones set up here. It's time for you to ask some questions.
So can you tell me more about how you're funded?
Yeah, happy to. We basically are nonprofit, so we are funded by individuals and foundations. We are not funded publicly or through the school system whatsoever. So it's all just out there raising money.
What about grants?
All the time. Yes, we have a grant writer who is very busy all the time writing grants for us.
I thank you for your time and coming today. I'm actually a 20%er and I have gifted dyslexia. And,
It is, yes, absolutely.
I'm 40 years old and I found out this year that I have that.
Wow.
And,
Well, congratulations. Welcome to the club. It's great, I mean.
It's interesting. I've been learning a lot and my daughter has it as well. And so we're working through with her. She actually was evaluated at a mental health center. So thank you from a family journey
Well, thank
perspective.
you.
But can you tell me a little bit more about how much the box is and how it works and is it in scale and whatnot?
Sure. The box, this whole kit, which it has several components. This is Vanna White here, is holding up what we call the paddywhack bag. The paddywhack bag has all the materials you need to work with a child no more than 2. We sell all the components separately, so if you have a classroom of children, you can purchase extra materials. But this was really basically a tutoring kit is how we put it together, or for a parent. The 43 lessons are divided into 2 components. The first section are 10 lessons which develop letters, understanding alphabet, and sounds, phonological awareness. So intensely in those first 10 lessons, that's what we're focused on. With young children, 5 years of age, it takes about 2 days to master the lesson. The second section in the box are the remaining 33 lessons, and they move from the most frequent sound in the English language to the least frequent sound that first grade and second grade children need to be exposed to. So that's basically the way it goes. It's $400, which that includes the $50 is there for you for that online training, which is divided into modules. You have 6 months to go back and refresh yourself if there's something you missed or you have a question. So once it's purchased, we send you a passcode for you to get into the online training. So,
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. This is a wonderful presentation. My question is, how early can you as a parent start picking up clues from your child that this might be a future issue for them?
These are great questions, guys, and I was hoping everybody would ask these questions. It used to be we had to wait for a child to fail by 4th grade to really understand if that child was maybe dyslexic or other severe reading problems. We don't have to do that. We know exactly how to assess this now. We know around the age of 5, the brain should be ready to start to learn to read, understand letters, understand sounds with letters, begin to be interested in writing their name, etc. So we have early signs. Does that mean we can say for sure this child is dyslexic? No. But we certainly have at-risk indicators. I knew, and the preschool teachers helped me understand, that my youngest Cooper, why I do what I do, had problems. So I started looking 16 different medical professionals by the time he was 6. Nobody indicating dyslexia. So it was speech language. He didn't seem to hear what we said. He was always saying what, or you didn't say that. I'd be like, yes, I did. I'm supposed to be doing that, but you're doing that. I didn't hear you say it. It was the truth. So these are the things we look for. And everybody kept saying, oh, he's just a 3-year-old boy. He's just stubborn. No, I knew. But it wasn't until the second part of 1st grade before finally educational psychologists said he is profound and Kansas isn't going to help you. So, yeah. So that's how I got doing what I do. So it's from the heart and passion.
Thank you for your presentation. If I heard you correctly, you said that the school system within Kansas does not necessarily deal with dyslexia.
No, they
Okay.
do not.
What are you as an organization, and how are you as an organization making that aware or working that into the state of Kansas? Do you have to do that legislatively or through the Board of Education? How is that done?
Again, as I first encountered and began to realize this huge catch-22 for parents and for teachers. These kids exist, we don't do anything in the schools. I started tackling that very early on, 20 years ago. I first went to speak to the State Board of Ed. No idea what dyslexia was. Thought it was seen backwards. Most groups I talk to still think that's what it is, including educators. So that's where I started. Very quickly, there was pushback, so that's when I decided don't quite get what's going on, so I started doing legislative work. I went 14 years with a dyslexia bill to the legislators, and nothing. As a matter of fact, it got harder and harder. So it was Senator Abrams who was working with me on the Senate Education Committee, and we were trying to get this done. It failed very quickly. As the Department of Ed kept coming in saying, nobody needs to worry about this, we're taking care of it. So we were both so frustrated, and that was the year I took busloads of people wearing shirts and banners, and very quickly we just got shut down. So At that point, I decided to go back, keep your private, not-for-profit, moving forward, doing what we can for those people who want to come, find out. So this year, I don't know if you saw it, the Dyslexia Task Force was formed out of a bill last year. So I sat on that task force. I really am hopeful, maybe for the first time in 25 years I've been doing this, maybe we're going to get some headway. The task force, 17 people across the state, educators of very diverse group, all came forward with a report that was accepted by the State Board of Education. We have not been able to get press on this whatsoever, so if there's a press person in this audience who is willing to grab this and go with me, I would appreciate that, because we need to get this out for parents' sake, that it's been accepted. So that, it's been a long, long road, and we've tried, so, and I will keep trying.
I do want to thank you so much for doing this, because at 52, and I do have dyslexia, what a difference this would have made if I would have been able to read and had better. I mean, I'm ahead with my life now, but what a difference it would make. And you said you don't work with the schools, or you do work with the schools, or I could, because my wife is a principal and she's doing early childhood development in Valley, and they are looking for, I mean, there's so many at-risks and stuff, and she is wanting more input, and she does know that you don't see stuff backwards and all that other business.
Right.
So not all educators are.
No, it's true, 98%.
Right. But,
So your wife sits in that wonderful group.
yeah.
Wonderful group.
But I was wanting to get with you after this and maybe get some
Sure.
more information and stuff.
No, we'd love to have your wife come to the center, and I didn't even have time to talk about that. We have today a full day school for children, so she can come, see, watch, experience, and that's what it's a laboratory school. Anybody is welcome. We'd love to give anyone a tour at any point in time.
But thank you once again.
No, thank you for coming out tonight. Well, thank you. Hi.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I am just wondering, coming from a non-native English speaker background.
Yep.
Do you have resources for parents who are non-English speakers?
No, not specifically, other than this program I had in mind for English as a second language internationally, because we do move this program from the most common sounds in the English language, and include, English being very complicated to read, with 26 letters and 98 different situational sounds. So we know this program is used in the state of, not mine, but the programs that this is based on are used for English as a second language instruction through the state of Texas, as well as the prison system. So that's what I will share. A high percentage of individuals who are incarcerated are dyslexic, very high. So that is something they're doing within systems all across the country. So that's what I can share with you, that certainly this program would work for an individual, another language, one language.
I mean, a lot of non-native English speakers from a different language system, oftentimes they have trouble pronouncing.
Exactly.
I still have that problem from time to time, even though I started learning English at a relatively young age, but if this could be implemented for children that are younger, if they get exposure to these pronunciations early on, they can catch on, because I think once you pass age of 6, it's difficult for you to learn new sounds.
It's very difficult, and that's what we know, and that's why all research has helped us understand 5 to 6, even if we can start 3 to 7 is the ideal time to be teaching the sounds That's when the brain is most plastic and able to do that. So, yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you for the question, that was good.
Hi, thank you. How does this differ, I have 2 questions. How does this differ from traditional phonics training for children? And if you have a grandchild or someone and you'd like to buy this and provide it to the parents, how much does it cost?
Okay, so that second part, what part of the cost, like training at our center? This for
How does it work? Yeah, I guess I'm.
Yeah. Backing up, I went to Dallas, Texas. I was an educator. I was K-8 certified at Wichita State University. That's where I was recognized with dyslexia. And like 1 million cups, I was probably in that category. Out of 1 million people, I maybe was the only one. Just so happened, Professor helped me out. So just shut the door on it, went on. And went into my first classroom really not knowing how to teach kids how to read at college. They didn't give me a curriculum. I was given a first grade class. I said, I don't know how to teach a child who can't read how to read. So they moved me to 5th grade. Yeah, I didn't have a curriculum. So I was hoping there'd be one in the classroom. This, then, when my son was diagnosed, sent me to Texas. Texas is the mecca for teaching individuals about dyslexia as well as programs they provide. I sat through my whole first 2 weeks of training crying, thinking this would have been so valuable for me. It's a different phonics approach. In the first place, we are really absolutely honed in on sound and the sounds within language, and we know you have to understand that to map that letter to it. So it's an intense, explicit, structured, sequential, scientific-based program that we're using that comes out of science. It's difficult to, and I will tell you as a teacher, to take all this information in, and it requires practice with kids for you to really hone your skills with this. So I was shocked. I was shocked at the information I discovered there. Really the magic with the programs that we do. And this is Wharton-Gillingham-based programming that I'm talking about, designed specifically in the 40s for kids with dyslexia, which again, our program, Alphabetic Phonics, is our main base program. And it basically starts with the assumption that we have to start at the beginning, introducing kids. So that's why we work from the most common sound, which is, are you ready? It. Short I is the most common sound in the English language. The next most common sound is the consonant T. So once you've taught your first 10 sounds to letters, theoretically, then a child should be able to read up to 1,000 words just in a constant short word. Can they? No, I've tried it. Theoretically. So that's how this system builds, and that's what's unique about it.
You've mentioned to us what dyslexia isn't.
Yes.
What is it? Is it a different way of thinking? That's what I've heard.
Yes, very much so. And I loved, we call it the superpower. And when you visit our school, you will see it. These children, okay, so it's genetic, carried on the first, 6th, and 15th chromosomes. We have to pass it on through the hereditarily. It can't be an accident or anything like that. Basically, this, we now know the gene, the culprit, who creates this unique difference in the brain, which means that a child starting early is not going to be interested or paying attention to people talking, but rather moving through space, looking at space, interested. We are experiential learners. We don't listen well, basically. So that's what it is, and therefore your language system becomes secondary to your kinesthetic or your ability to do visual spatial talents. So we see actually extremely gifted visual spatial talents as these children are looked at. So that's really what it is. I didn't learn to read until 3rd grade. I didn't know what reading meant. I didn't know how to do it. I knew, and I hope one day I run into Mary Stuckey. She was beside me for 2 years, and she was assigned to teach me how to read. Well, Mary Stuckey was a child. She didn't know how to teach me, but she read wonderfully. And I knew it. And I could not figure out how she did it. And I could not make the teacher happy because I knew I couldn't do that. So my dad was at the university at the time. He knew I was struggling. He went to the education department and they said, just read the same book to her over and over, she'll pick it up. So he did. A year. For a year, he read and I read Cat in the Hat. I could read it, you guys, but could I really read it? No. No, of course I memorized it. So he thought I was reading. The teacher didn't know. And one day, I missed a word, and he got very upset, and he said, do you flip back? He found the same word, and he said, what's that word? Well, panic. I'm trying to go through the book, get to the place. And he said, you don't know, do you? And so he started going page to page, and it was hat. And he would say, hat, H-A-T, hat, hat, H-A-T. He was a very nice man. I'm not a very nice man, but frustrated. So he called my teacher, and I tutored with her with a phonics program and letters and resentment the entire thing. It was after school. I was angry. But you know what? I learned to read. Am I a typical adult reader? No. You know, but can I read? Yes, I can. I can read research level, but it takes time and it's lots of work. So that's what dyslexia is. Designers, engineers, architects, actors, actresses, writers. It's that creative side. They have somebody spell for them, I promise you. But other than that, anything in the creative world, you will see entrepreneurs, a large percentage are dyslexic individuals.
Jeanine, thank you so much. As a last question, what can the Wichita community do to help you in the Fundamental Learning Center?
I have it actually up here. I thought, man, I'm going to put this down in the print. You know, the biggest thing is, and we talk about this all the time, is this is a very well kept secret in town, what we do. It really is. So talk about us, you know, shout out to people, help people know that you heard this morning at Million Cups. So that's the biggest thing. I'd say start a conversation. We have materials at the back, pick it up, pass it on. If some person came to mind to you, share. That's how people find out about this. Donations, as someone wonderfully asked, how do we raise money? We are constantly looking for funding for the kids, for scholarships, for teachers, etc. We have an annual fundraiser coming up, thank you for asking, the garden party, which is at Botanica on April 26th, and it's a blast, so we'd love to have you or your business come.
I have one quick question.
Okay, Erin.
Will the sound case work for kids that don't have dyslexia? Will it teach them?
I didn't plan her here and as a board member. I'm so glad I have several board members here today and staff members as well. yes, it's a great way to teach all kids. And that's what teacher after teacher is saying. Why would we restrict this to children with dyslexia? No, this is a great way to teach all kids how to read, write, and spell, so thank you for it. Real quick, my board, my staff is standing up really quick. They're here, they can answer questions now.
All right, let's do